The theme is simple steps disrupt with speed. I just want you to double click on why simple steps.
Why simple steps?
And what do you mean by disrupt here in this particular sentence?
I think the question is the people that we are trying to serve, and when they have to absorb a change or make a change, they can do very simple things. For example, change the way they sow seeds, or change the way they teach a lesson in a class, or change the way they understand the healthcare parameters of a patient. Simple things. And hence, if they can do it with less stress and less inputs required, it can be done by many more people, right? But the fact that they can do something differently is the disruption from doing the same thing that they have been doing for the longest period of time, or not doing something at all. And when you start doing it, it has a profound impact on the agency of people, the dignity of people. So the question is, sometimes it's just simple things which people can do in a much more basic way, is way more disruptive than some very pristine, correct, absolutely complete, complex solution that they have to be capacitated for, trained for, and then after that they do it. Then it is not, there is no speed aspect to it, because it will be at the change or at the speed of building the capacity. But it doesn't need to be like that, right? Sometimes it's just simple steps. For example, today in India, people have engaged very closely with the digital ecosystem, is because it's as simple as scanning a code and say yes to something, vis-a-vis figuring out some very complicated way of making a digital payment happen, which is possible for a few. Well, it's not possible for a person selling coconuts on the street, what they should be doing, or the simple idea that if you have your device which tells you 10 rupees received, is so simple for them to understand that they got, rather than checking in their banking app whether the money was received or not. So these are simple things, but because they are simple things, they travel with a breakneck speed, right? And because they travel and they permeate the society very quickly, they are disrupting, because that suddenly changes the way people interact with people. And that's the disruption, that our relationships, our interactions change. So I'm always very excited with the idea that if we are trying to solve a very complex problem, the answer may lie in a simple step that is very disruptive.
It's also more comforting to.
More comfortable, it's more gentler on people, right? Yeah.
What would you tell nonprofit teams who see this as a contradiction between simplicity and the need for depth? Because some people perceive it as a challenge, that if we start focusing on simple actions, then our funders and our partners might see us doing something superficial and not deep enough to initiate the change. I think it applies that people view change differently. But how would you tackle that argument in a debate, for example?
Yeah, I think that the question is not of an argument, because it's not that it's A versus B would be an argument. But the question many a times is, it is A and B. One is the ability to design the full complex answer. And the second is to drive adoption with speed. And many a times when you are trying to drive adoption of an idea, you may want to take that very complex thing and take a simple step and start with that, which is disruptive, and then the next step, and then the next step. So many a times it's a way of driving change and driving adoption. It's a change management question, rather than saying that, oh, you just do this simple thing and everything will be all right. I think that's a misunderstanding, right? It was this ancient philosopher and poet Hesiod who said that if you add only a little to a little and do this often, soon that little will become great, right? So the question was, if we have worked upon something and found that yes, this indeed changes lives of people. Then you ask this question saying, how do I do this with speed? Then we may have to say, okay, the way of driving adoption is to unbundle this into a set of simple steps and drive those simple steps one by one so that people are able to get comfortable with the idea, embrace the idea, engage with it, and become better and better at using it. So I don't think it's a versus question. It's a strategy question. Saying having a great idea is of no value unless it is adopted. And adopting something which is too simplistic is also of no value. So it's a combination that we have to work with.
We've seen micro improvements
Mhm.
actually in India in the education sector. Why was that idea born and why micro improvements? Why not change the system entirely?
This is an interesting provocation here. It says that simple change can thrive with the latent agency and limited capacity of all people. In turn, it reinforces agency and improves capacity for more change. So the idea of micro improvement was originated. Interestingly, the anecdote of that is I walked into the room of a school principal, and behind his chair was a poster which says, "Do one thing every day that scares you." And I asked him, why? Why have we put this poster? And he said, if I try to bring about change in response to the society that I'm servicing, it may not be in my process, in my policy, in my instructions, in my training, but I know it's the right thing to do. But I'm okay to do a small thing that is scary rather than do a big thing that is scary, right? So, but because it was unlocking his agency, and because he was able to do one thing, whether it was teacher training or whether it was understanding a student who was falling behind, or whether it was the state of the books in the library and so on and so forth, one thing started to lead to the other. And the speed suddenly picks up because what you have unlocked is people's ability to change. Right. And so this idea of micro improvement was that if we make a small change every day, then it compounds. And speed is all about compounding. Speed is not about only, it's not haste, it's not a rush. It's the ability to gradually and steadily get better and better and faster. It's about compounding. And that happens when you start to do something. And do it with your capacity within your resources, using your agency, and then do it again and then do it again. And so the idea that if you really want to look for speed at which people embrace a change, then we have to start where they are and take them where they have never been.